Hello everyone, my name is Dewi Amira Dania, binti Radin Ariff Taquiddin, and today I'll be presenting on children with autism, the educational aspects. So here is an overview of what I will be presenting on today. The first will be introduction, followed by significance of the study, research questions, literature review, theoretical framework, methodology, results, discussion, recommendations, and finally conclusion. Okay, so for the introduction, so the Persons with Disabilities Act 2008 defines persons with disabilities, or PWDs, as those who suffer from long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments, preventing their full and effective participation in society when faced with challenges. So autism is a disorder of neurodevelopment. It's characterized by impaired social interaction, communication, and by restricted repetitive behaviors. So this research study is aimed to deepen our understanding of education for children with autism in terms of NASAM Kuantan services, the challenges faced by the teachers when carrying their job, besides gauging the level of awareness with regards to education for children with autism to generate a theory in relation to the findings. Okay, so for significance of the study, so this study is significant as there has not been a comparable study in the past. Hence, recommendations are made to the current educational services offered by NASAM, and a theory has been generated from the study using the grounded theory approach, contributing a novel finding to the field. So for research questions, there were three main research questions that we used. The first one being what type of services are available for children with autism in Nasum Kuantan. The second one being what are the challenges faced by teachers of children with autism in Nasum Kuantan. And the third and last one being how could awareness of children with autism be enhanced? Okay, so for literature review, so there have been previous research studies that have focused on various subjects, such as teaching facilities and assistive technologies, financing an autistic child, stress encountered by parents of children with autism, and the awareness of autism. But there is a research gap of studies on Nassim Kuantan in terms of its services, challenges faced by its teachers, and awareness of the importance of education and autism, which this study has attempted to fill. So for theoretical framework, so grounded theory was used to frame the research to generate a theory from data collected through interviews and observation. So grounded theory is an important tool in qualitative research inquiry as it utilizes an inquiry method that is systematic, inductive, and comparative to produce a theory. Okay, so for methodology, so a single case study was adopted as the research design as it focused on NASAM content. So the interview and observation qualitative instruments were used to collect data. The head teacher was interviewed and 30 students and 10 teachers were observed. So in order to ensure trustworthiness of the research and data collected, the research process was shown to another researcher who has vast research experience to get her validation on the research process. So thematic analysis was carried out using Broad and Clark's 2012 method. Okay, so now for the results. So from our three research questions, which was what type of services are available in Nasam Kuantan, what are the challenges in teaching children with autism in Nasam Kuantan, and how could awareness of special needs education for children with autism be raised? We were able to get three different themes. The first one being NASAM services, the second one being challenges in teaching children with autism, and the last one being awareness of autism. So there are several codes that fall under the theme, each of the themes. So for the theme of NASAM services, the codes that fall under it include various teaching facilities available and teachers observant of their students. So for the theme challenges in teaching children with autism, so the codes that fall under it include different degrees of disability, students' behavior challenging to manage, lack of NASAM centers for children with autism in Pahang, parents in self-denial, and financial assistance needed. And for the last theme, awareness of autism, there were two codes that fell under it. First one being more awareness is needed, and the second one being the visible Ronald McDonald sign on the building wall. Okay, so for discussion, it was found that the 30 students at NASOM were a perfect match for the 10 teachers since each teacher basically oversaw 3 students, making it manageable for special attention to be given. So under discussion, there are 3 main topics that we should discuss. The first one being NASOM Kwantan services. So the current teaching methods are pretty traditional, more assistive technology, as recommended by researchers, should be adopted. So the use of augmented and alternative communication and video modeling approaches, robots, state-of-the-art methods of teaching like occupational therapists who include sensory components in feeding interventions are important to be considered by NASOM. The second topic that should be discussed is the challenges in teaching children with autism. So teachers need to improve their teaching skills for teaching children on sensitive topics like puberty, which they found challenging. So parents too need to be educated on how to bring up their children and cope with stress, as highlighted by several studies. Okay, so for the last topic under discussion is the lack of awareness. So the low awareness found in this study is supported by previous studies that found awareness of autism by the public at an all-time low, as they had a moderate level of knowledge, approximately 72%, and a low level of positive attitude. So that's approximately 57% towards ASD, with many Malaysians not understanding autism. So the lack of awareness is more apparent in Malaysia than in the UK. Okay, so for recommendations, for recommendations for NASAM services, is that more NASAM centers need to be built in Pahang to cater to more students with autism that are beyond 13 years of age. Another recommendation under NASAM services is more training is needed for teachers at NASAM. And the last recommendation is more appropriate teaching facilities and programs are needed to stimulate the children's cognitive ability. So for recommendations for challenges, the first one being that parents should be well informed on their children's condition. Next, NASAM should garner more assistance from the government or private corporations for funding their centers and their students. And the last one being that the behaviors of students with autism should be managed better by teachers who should be better trained. And lastly, recommendations for awareness. So more awareness is needed by the public on children with disabilities and more specifically children with autism. So there was a visible Ronald McDonald sign on the wall of the building indicating that NASAM was being sponsored or had received sponsorship from the Ronald McDonald House of Charities. So, in conclusion, there were several limitations to the study. Firstly, being that qualitative studies cannot be used to generalize the findings to the population. So, this case study provides an in-depth examination of only one case in the form of Nasam Kuantan, and this cannot be used to generalize to other Nasam centers in Malaysia. So, in the future, more interviews should be conducted in at least 2 NASM centers to compare between them. In the future, quantitative research should also be done on parents and the community at large to gauge their attitudes, expectations, and perceptions of education for children with autism to provide more recommendations. So there's definitely room for improvement here as the roles of each stakeholder, assistance from the government and the private sector provided to NASOM, and the parents of children with autism need to be taking place for the ecosystem to work in facilitating children with autism and obtaining a better quality of life. So above all, awareness of children with autism so as to build empathy and assimilate the children in society needs to be augmented. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. This is the end of the presentation and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.